how do you overcome a negative plane of mind? That's exactly what we're talking about on the Manifesting Guide. But before we do that, if you're done with forcing yourself to accomplish things and you don't want to push anymore, get your free manifesting kit at highertrueself.com/freebie. It's completely free. And if you'd like notifications when I release a new episode, go to highertrueself.com/podcast and you can subscribe. We're listening to episode 56, How to Overcome a Negative Plane of Mind. This is Ariana Rollins, and we're going to jump into the podcast now. So if you look at the term negative, we often hear things are positive, things are negative. But negative has multiple meanings. Because if you're negative, if we think of feminine versus masculine. Masculine state of mind, because we all have a masculine state of mind and a feminine state of mind. Masculine is the active part. It's the getting things done part. And feminine is the negative, the receptive. Let's look at it even a little deeper. If we think of, let's go out into the universe, for example. I think, Dr. Joe Dispenza uses this term. Others use it, quantum field. And when he's guiding someone in the meditation, it's guiding someone out into the quantum field where there's nothing. There's no physical manifestations. There is only energy. So if we look at that, everything that we are seeing in our physical world is tangible. It's something that we can touch. So how do we get into, I know this is going to sound odd because I said, how do you overcome a negative state of mind? But how do we get into that receptive state where there is an absence of initiation and action and forcing? Now, this is where it's tricky, because if we look at positive, negative as, good, bad, healthy, not healthy, it's not. It's balancing it. It's balancing that state of mind, because if we're not in a negative state of mind, in other words, we're not in a receptive mind, we're constantly pitching, pushing, forcing, and we're in action. And you may have done that yourself, where you've been in I got to get this done. Maybe there's a deadline and that you are burning the midnight oil and you're in that constant pitching mode. You may have noticed, at least I have, is that's not where I get the intuitive guidance. If I am using that get it done and forcing myself, I'm not in a passive, receptive, let's use that term, negative, to receive, to get the messages. What is the next intuitive step? So we're trained in the world to make a plan, stick to the plan, whether we like it or not, use discipline, and make things happen. I mean, it's a very masculine mindset. But there is an important aspect to that receptive, that negative, that passive. And even the term negative, we don't even like to hear it. So let's talk about overcoming a negative mindset, which is truly, let's, instead of using the word negative, let's call it self-defeating. Isn't that a far better descriptive term? Self-defeating. How would we know we're in a self-defeating mindset? Well, I think for most of us, we'd recognize it. We're overly sensitive. We get easily triggered if someone is trying to give us some helpful criticism, or that something doesn't go well and we go into this pit of despair. We get frustrated. Maybe we yell, maybe we cry, maybe we talk it out with a friend that, gosh, life is not going well. Well, that, my friend, is what I would call self-defeating, and that's attracting even more frustration, because where our thinking goes, our energy flows. And here's the thing that I've learned with all the years I've worked with in this field of manifesting, is that The very thing that we focus our time and energy and our thoughts, and especially our spoken word. Ooh, the power of word. So important. I mean, think of abracadabra. Someone defined that term for me. I read it in a book and I can't remember. It's like make it so. So if we are talking about the very things that we don't want to happen, it's like abracadabra. Make it so. Again, I'm not saying that you create bring ill fortune to yourself. Not at all. There are 8 billion other creators out in the world, and we could just be in the wash of whatever they're creating. And let me touch on this real quick, and we'll get back to that self-defeating mindset, is that if you don't have a powerful aim, if you don't have something that is lighting you up, an intention, a meaningful target in your life, then you can be subject to the flotsam of other people's intentions, whims, desires, and will. So it's so important. That's why when I'm working with someone and they've completed their objective, we call them objectives in my work, either something short-term, 30 days or 40 days, and that's called a basic objective, basic achiever, and then there's a super achiever up to 90 days, which is more complex and could be up to a 10 in difficulty. So once I'm guiding them through, okay, what did you accomplish? What did you learn? How did you grow? It's so important. The final question, what are you working on next? What do you want to bring into the physical world? What do you want to manifest? What do you want to accomplish? Because if you've got that, you're rising above the fog of thinking that is in the world that's often it's frustration, it's worry. And so if you have something meaningful, here's a quick hack. This is a great one. If you're feeling a bit aimless, you're feeling a bit just a little bit anxious, free floating, you don't know why, get to practice process. And I call that practice process is what are you accomplishing? And visualize it, but go beyond that, create an imaginary experience of that future memory, of that endpoint success image. How do you see yourself stepping into that? What is it going to look like, feel like? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Everything. You make it as if it has already happened. And I like to call it a future memory or endpoint success image. You've arrived. Now make it realistic, okay? Don't go from 0 to, 90 in 1 second, because there are multiple reasons. One, it's shocking on your system. There's a great podcast, I don't remember the number, but it's called Shock-Free Success. I invite you to listen to that one, because we adapt and change more slowly, our body catching up with our desire, than we would like. I know we want this instant shifting of gears and pivoting, but it's hard on our psyche, hard on our emotions, hard on our body. So it's far, far better to sneak up on success and set interim intentions, objectives, and goals. Okay, so always be focused on something. That's a great one to get out of the self-defeating mindset, or what other people we could call negative mindset, okay? Because if you're in that kind of free-floating, lackadaisical, aimless, you've got something to put your attention in. Why not put your energy in that which you want, versus trying to figure out, why am I feeling like this? Why do I feel anxious? Why do I feel like a little fearful? Why do I feel despair? Why do I feel doubt? When you analyze that, your mind's going down the rabbit hole and you're attracting more of the same. A negative mindset. Let's bring this in. You're receptive. You're receptive to that which you're focusing on, which is why it's so important to shift that negative mindset, as in receptivity, to that which you want. What better way than focusing on your endpoint success image, your future memory? Let's bring it in. Let's create it. Okay. Now let's address negative mindset, how most people think of it, as in self-defeating. So if you've ever tried to reach beyond what you've accomplished in the past, what is familiar, That's where the doubts can come in, and doubts are self-defeating. That's the number one sabotaging mechanism for manifestation is doubt. Doubt it's possible for you. Now, where do doubts come from? Well, for the majority of us, it's from our own personal life experience. If you've ever had a relationship that you had great hope for and you were deeply in love with the person and it only lasted for a short time, then you doubt that your next relationship will last. Or if you were in a relationship and someone started to see someone else while they were with you, you have the fear of being betrayed. That's a doubt, doubting someone's loyalty. Or maybe you have had a great accomplishment in your business. If you're self-employed, you brought in new clients, your income was great, and the little thought was, wow, last month wasn't so good. I don't know if I can repeat this. It's beyond what I've done before. I doubt that I can do it because I'm going to have to work harder. Maybe there's not enough people who are interested in what I'm doing, and this was just kind of a fluke. This was a great win. Doubts are the poison arrows that will take down. If you see this beautiful balloon, you might have seen them in New Mexico. They often do these balloon festivals, and Southern California they do them, probably a lot of places in the world, but I've seen them there. And that you see these balloons floating into the air. And a key thing about balloons, I think this is kind of a cool analogy or metaphor, is that when the balloon's on the ground, it's all flat, right? They've got the basket there, and then they turn up the fire. Right? There's a fire that creates hot air, which then fills the balloon up. And then as it starts to fill up more and more and more, there gets to be so much hot air in that balloon, it starts to lift the people in the basket off the ground. So what's that hot air for you? What's the thing that starts to lift you up, energize you? For me, it's focusing on my endpoint objective, my endpoint success image, my future memory. If I'm really connected emotionally to that, and I can feel it in my body, I can visualize it, I can hear it, I know it's happened, well, I know doubts have nothing to do with it. I'm on track. I remember the first time this happened, using that power, that emotional fuel, is I had set my objective, and it's rigorous. It's what we do in the Highest Potential program. We test everything to make sure it's right for us, the timing's right. We ask the difficulty and the desirability, which is why when I teach manifesting, it works because it's a step-by-step method. It's a system. So I remember the first time that I set an objective that it was so amazing. I anchored it into my heart. I knew it happened. It was like this whole visceral body experience. I knew it was already there, and I just had to kind of wait the time, whatever that time was. A day, a few weeks, a few months. I had to wait the time until energetically my beingness caught up with it. And then energetically means I pushed any doubts away. I cleared what we call blockages, which are the self-defeating thinking and feeling. And it was incredible. My belief that it was coming was 10 out of 10. So if you've got an intention and objective you're working on, let me ask you, where's your belief right now? And that's a good question to ask yourself. And if it's maybe it was a 10 when you said it, 10 in desirability, belief is actually on that plane of mind of self-defeating, because that's where the difficulty rating will help you uncover that lack of belief and conviction, because that will undermine your tenacity and your focus and your persistence. So where's your belief now on a 1 to 10 scale? If it's anything less than a 10, then you've got the negative mindset. Negative, not in a good way, receptive, but negative as in self-defeating. And I suggest you get on that as soon as possible, because what's going to happen, if we go back to that analogy of the hot air balloon floating, is that when they start to want to land, right, they start to turn down the fire, the emotional fuel, They start to turn down the fire and the balloon starts to land, right? Well, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have this vision that you see it, you feel it, you can taste it, you can touch it, you know it. And then the doubt starts to turn the fire down and you'll find yourself at ground zero on the soil, right? On the earth. And to go from ground zero to being up in the air again with that hot air balloon takes a lot. Right? You can imagine, right? Versus catching it as you're starting to drop in your mood, in your emotions, in your state of mind, that negativity is coming in. That's way easier to turn the fire up, which I mean, and when I say that, is to clear the blockages. And if you'd like to learn how to clear blockages, that's one of my sweet spots. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you. One of the fastest way to do it is, and least expensive right now, is the Breaking Through Barriers course. And that will help you learn how to recognize blockages and how to remove the poison arrows of doubt, whether it's you're trying to accomplish greater income or peace of mind, or you're trying to bring in a dream relationship, a great partnership. Doubt's doubt. Self-defeating, whatever your intention is. Once you've got that skill, you can bring in magic and miracles because it's going to keep that hot air balloon floating up higher, and you'll be able to recognize when your state of mind has started to drop. And remember that more gets more. So you've got to have some to get some. Connecting with someone who's on a positive state of mind and upbeat, and they're going somewhere and they've got an intention and they're driven. Ooh, that's like pure gold. All right. Hope you enjoyed the podcast and thank you for listening. And if you'd like to share the episode with someone, you could, or leave a review at podchaser.com. I'd be ever so grateful. And as we wrap up, is remember to get your manifesting kit at highertrueself.com/freebies, and that'll help you get out of that forcing state of mind. And there's wonderful meditations in there. I highly recommend it. And lastly, remember, self-confirmation frees you to be yourself. It helps you succeed on your terms. We'll last and with, to thine own self be true. Thanks for listening.